everyone. Again, sorry for the delay this afternoon, but we are going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the GLR Week Mississippi Virtual Forum. My name is Olivia Morgan, and I am the director of the Mississippi Campaign for Grade Level Reading. I have with me in one of the video boxes on your screen my colleague and co-host, Dr. Angela Rutherford.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Angela is the director of the Center for Excellence in Literacy Instruction at the University of Mississippi. We are so glad each of you carved out time in your busy schedules to join us today. We have a great lineup of presenters, and I think you will find the next hour really worth your time. Our state's leading educators greatly acknowledge the real impacts of the COVID slide, and this presentation was created to give them the opportunity to discuss plans and strategies that address the urgent need to mitigate learning loss. So before the presenters get started, a few housekeeping things to go over. This meeting is already being recorded, and since we're using the meeting function, please mute yourself if you're not presenting so we don't distract from the presenters. We would love for you to engage and participate, so use the chat function at the bottom of your screen if you have comments you want to share by clicking that chat button, and then also share on social media as we go. A quick overview of the agenda. Dr. Carrie Wright, the MDE State Superintendent of Education, will start us off with some opening statements, followed by Kristen Wynn, the Mississippi State Literacy Director, who will discuss statewide strategies and resources to combat learning loss. Then we'll hear from Tara Wren, the Director of Education for Mississippi Public Broadcasting, about how they are supporting families and children. Steve Greeley will be up next to discuss the Mississippi Family Success Project, and then we'll have an opportunity to hear from a number of Mississippi Campaign for Grade Level Reading community leads about activities and initiatives taking place across the state to combat learning loss. So with that, I would like to take a minute to introduce our first presenter for opening statements. Dr. Carrie M. Wright became the State Superintendent of Education for Mississippi in 2013. Under her leadership, Mississippi has initiated education reforms that have increased literacy skills in pre-K through grade 3, pushed student achievement on the National Assessment of Educational Progress to improve at a faster rate than most other states, and increased the graduation rate to an all-time high of 85%. Additionally, Dr. Wright spearheaded initiatives that earned Mississippi annual recognition on the National Institute of Early Education Research as one of only 7 states that meet the majority of quality standards for early childhood education. Dr. Wright and the MDE staff have worked tirelessly to support districts and families during the transition to virtual learning, provide resources for summer learning, and share guidance for handling the reopening of schools this fall. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Wright.
My pleasure, and thank you for having me. And welcome to the Campaign for Grade Level Reading Week 2020. You know, we are blessed to have the technology and the equipment that we need in order to conduct this meeting virtually, and so we're thankful for that. You know, when schools closed down this past spring, there were millions of students across our nation that were shut out of learning because they simply either did not have the computers or they did not have the connectivity, any kind of access to the internet to participate in distance learning. But despite these challenges during the current health crisis, we're forging ahead and making sure that our work on supporting schools and families continues despite what we're going through, because we need to ensure that children are successful in school. You know, and if there's one of the silver linings, and I think there's 2 of them that I think I found in this COVID thing, is that we have really lifted up the value of a greater appreciation for our teachers, who so often I think go without the pats on the back that they deserve, and our schools that are trying so hard, but also the important role that communities have played in supporting children at home. You know, none of us can do this work by ourselves. I'm especially grateful for all of the communities that have rallied around their children and their schools during this very difficult time. Every school district is grappling with the same decisions right now about how to reopen and how to reopen safely. They want to make sure that their children are safe, the staffs are safe, and communities play such an important role right now in supporting schools and teachers. You know, I've been asked to do a presentation tomorrow. I'm excited about that. It's called Maintaining Momentum in Mississippi. Because as you know, this past fall, Mississippi was recognized as one of only 2 states in the nation that improved in 3 out of the 4 areas that are assessed on NAEP. And we are very proud and very excited to have been honored that way, but also it just shows you how hard our teachers are working to make that happen. So sustaining this progress rather is going to be rather difficult. We understand that because of COVID. Obviously, we're all in the same boat, but we are not letting up on our mission to improve academic outcomes for children. You know, this upcoming school year is going to look different, no doubt. Some children may be, face-to-face, others may be at home virtually, or districts may be running a combination of the two. But every parent and every staff member and every school leader has the same goals in mind for children, and that is to ensure that their children learn and grow and are successful in school. I hope this week gives you a lot of great ideas and some inspiration as we start with the 2020-2021 school year. You know, I am an optimist by heart, and that is the way I approach everything in life, and that's the way we're approaching the opening of the school year. We're going to make this happen for children, and we're going to make it happen in a really good way. I know it's going to be challenging. It's going to be challenging for educators and families and communities, but I am confident that we will rise to this challenge together because our children are depending on us. Thank you, and I hope you have a great week.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wright. It's so great to hear from someone so optimistic because these are troubling times, but we're glad to have you as our fearless leader. Next up, we have Kristen Wynn. Kristen serves as the State Literacy Director for K-12 at the Mississippi Department of Education. She and her colleagues have been working hard over the last few months to develop support for families and provide recommendations and resources for combating learning loss. Kristen?
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Olivia, for the introduction. Do I need to switch to my slides, or we have them?
We got them for you.
Great. So despite the challenges, we have worked diligently this summer to provide supports to teachers, students, and families to combat learning loss due to the pandemic. We know that our families and community members are a great asset as we ensure students are skilled, proficient readers. You can advance that slide for me. On this slide, we have our vision, which is to create a world-class educational system that gives students the knowledge and skills to be successful in college and in the workforce. And in order to do that, we must ensure that they have access to what they need to continue learning. This slide outlines our State Board of Education strategic plan, and our focus areas for the past few months aligned to these goals, and we're going to get into those focus areas shortly. So we focused over the last few months on the following areas when we're looking at our literacy efforts. We focused on providing supports and resources to districts and schools. We looked at creating activities and resources for families to utilize at home. And then we looked at very innovative and creative ways of providing professional learning for our teachers. One of the few ways we work to continue to support districts and schools was through our literacy support grants for summer reading programs. During the 2018-19 school year, we awarded 24 schools approximately $3 million to be distributed over 3 years to support struggling students through our summer reading programs. Many of them presented to us budget revisions and had those programs or provided those programs to students in a very innovative way. During the 2019-2020 school year, additional grant funds were offered to districts through a competitive grant process to support summer reading programs. Several of our schools and districts took innovative and really creative approaches to provide summer learning opportunities to students, from mobile instructional labs to asynchronous as well as synchronous reading instruction. Here in this picture, and you can access the article, and I'll get it, see if Olivia will put it in the chat for us. But Faulkner Elementary in North Tippah received a summer reading grant and was recently featured in the article. They offered mobile assessments and instructional labs for students who are unable to attend the online learning sessions. So they were one of our grantees that really took an innovative approach to offering summer reading camps to their students. We also worked in our program office to provide supports and resources, additional supports and resources to families. In June, we relaunched our Strong Readers campaign to promote continued literacy development at home. You can access that site by using the QR code on the slide. But that site is now organized by grade levels from kindergarten through 5th grade. The site also includes strategies for developing strong reader habits and a series of activities to practice the 5 components of reading. In addition, and we're really excited about this project, we expanded the launch of what we call Epic Mississippi. And Epic Mississippi was created to reach parents in a non-threatening, easily accessible way through or via text message by providing parents tips on a variety of topics, from social emotional health to conversation starters to improve oral language development skills. So parents can text to 33222, and once they text, they can choose from a variety of codes, and they enter that code, and they get weekly text messages to give them tips on whatever they may choose in one of those particular categories. We knew that it was equally important to support teacher development, as many of our teachers were searching for ways to assist students and parents as they made the transition to virtual learning. So we knew it was important to stay connected and to continuously provide coaching support. So we transitioned our traditional coaching model to a virtual coaching model, where we offered a virtual coaching menu to schools. We provided instructional resources and other virtual professional learning opportunities. And we also hosted Zoom family literacy trainings. And we also hosted webinars that included instructional practices in remote learning settings. We created sample videos to show teachers how they are able to teach or continuously teach via Zoom the 5 components of reading. So as we look ahead, look into the future, as we move into reopening and the reentry phase, we are continuously developing our Stronger Reader page. We're on phase 2, which will include some wraparound services for social, emotional, and academic development for parents. We're also including our external partners and the activities for pre-K in phase 2. We have taken our letters training for teachers, and we have moved it to virtual sessions. We are working diligently to ensure our students have access to high quality instructional materials. Through that effort, we are working closely with Ed Reports and student achievement partners to ensure that we have rubrics that are developed so that our schools and districts can review high quality and adopt high quality instructional materials. We are working to continuously support our lowest performing schools. And then we are working to provide and release guidance for instructional planning that addresses unfinished learning.
Thank you, Kristen. MDE has been busy.
Yes.
All right, next up we have Tara Wren. Tara serves as the Director of Education at Mississippi Public Broadcasting. With nearly 25 years of marketing, advertising, sales, public relations, cooperative, and nonprofit leadership and experience, she uses her practitioner, educator, administrative, and operational skills to help fulfill the mission of MPB, which is to educate all Mississippians. Tara?
Thanks for having me. I want to say thank you to the Campaign for Grade Level Reading and the Mississippi Network for allowing me to just be a part of the platform here today. So I'm going to share a few things that we have done at Mississippi Public Broadcast in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. First, we created a web page dedicated to teachers, students, parents, and it has lots of information and resources. We created this right at the height of the pandemic. As you see there, we called it MPB at Home Learning. The page remains up and we keep it refreshed with content. The other thing that we did is we worked alongside with MDE. You can go back to that first slide, sorry. We worked alongside MDE because we wanted to continue to support classrooms throughout the state. And our television content was another way to do that. We realigned programming to coincide with various grade levels, and this content supported what the students were learning and being taught in school from a literacy perspective and STEM content as well. And we have continued to do this realignment throughout the summer. Next slide. Also, when schools were forced to close because of the pandemic, we started a special broadcast on a radio show called the Mississippi Education Connection. And the goal of this show then, and it's still going now, was to use our statewide radio platform to broadcast resources to share with our audience across the state all things education during this most unusual time. We've had guests on, like Dr. Wright's been on, and by the way, she's going to be on again this Friday, so make sure you guys tune in at 10 o'clock. And we've had other guests just of diverse content and diverse topics. Next slide. This is our summer learning resources page that we've created that's geared more towards summer activities. And we have activities on there like a family activity calendar, things that's coming on television as well. And we, like I said, the broadcast schedule is there where we have also continued to realign our program on television for continued learning during the summer. Next slide. This particular slide talks about something that's very important. Now, e-learning for educators is a platform that we use for educators to get their CEUs. And what we have done, I want to point out that we will soon have a course on teaching within a virtual environment. We have worked with MDE and the representatives and a developer to ensure that the proper content and design is there. And we're planning to kick the first class off on August the 3rd. And so registration, we're hoping to start in the next week or so. Also, the Digital Education Network is a platform, a service that MPB has really offered for 25 years. It's a virtual video conferencing platform that allows a teacher in one location to instruct students in classrooms hundreds of miles away. So this service is so vital right now as we're in this distance of virtual learning environment. We've also written a grant to expand this service, not only to high school, but also to elementary and middle schools as well. And I must note that the service is a big help to schools that are without certified teachers. And it has been a big help with those school districts that are looking for those certified teachers. Another thing to note is that we're also working on adding a 4th channel where these types of lessons that's taught across the air can also be taught on a 4th channel, which airs across the state to every household in the state of Mississippi. That way you don't have to have internet access. So that's one of the services that we are offering digitally. Annually, we have had for the past 7 years, MPB has hosted Summer Learning Family Fun Day. And this event is our effort to help combat the summer learning loss, of course. And the last couple of years, we have had over 4,000 people to attend this event. This year, because of COVID-19, we went virtual and we did it for an entire week. And it was lots of fun to put together. We had all sorts of activities for families to do together. It was absolutely a learning and engaging opportunity for families. Our theme was, it's a great time to learn together. And we had over 9,000 folks to view and to tune in during that entire week of June 21st through 27th. And the good thing about this year, they didn't walk into the convention center and walk out with a bunch of papers and activities to do. They get to, if they missed it, people can go back because the content that we created that week was phenomenal and very good and useful for continued learning throughout the summer. So everyone can check it out at education.mpbonline.org. This program, PAT, Parents Are Teachers Too, we started working on this a couple of years ago because we saw the importance of parent engagement in terms of literacy and getting involved with their students early on, helping them to be good readers. So we are piloting this program, which we're supposed to start at the beginning of March, but because of the pandemic, it was delayed. And now we have started back in 20 counties. We're doing it virtually for the most part, and it encourages parent involvement. So these sessions are virtual, and you can find out more about that on our website as well. We're really excited about this program because at a time when children are forced to be at home, families are forced to be home together more, we're giving parents tips and strategies and allowing some peer-to-peer conversations to occur. Next slide. And I just wanted to share a few of the community events that we will be doing virtually coming up just like Summer Learning Week. We like to partner with some of you who are on today listening with some of these events, and you can take those in there. And oh, that's the workshop, I'm sorry. We offer daycare workshop training for teachers, daycare teachers across the state. We have 4, and you will see them listed there and the dates. We also will do special ones. And of course, we're going to work on doing these virtually as well. MPB is a Department of Health certified training agency. And so we just look, and we have lots of fun and provide lots of strategies and tips for teachers to learn new things to teach the little ones, their early learners there in their classes. And here are the community events that I started to talk about. These are some events that we're going to have the rest of the year. Read for the Record is a big one. I want you to note that. October the 29th, we're looking for folks across the state to partner with MPB so that we can encourage reading. And so look more for that on our social media sites and our website as well. And this is the last thing that I would mention, but it's most important as well. On the right side there, the PBS Kids 24/7 channel, there are cartoons on there, and kids think they're watching cartoons, but they're actually not. They're learning as they're watching, and so they're being engaged in that way. And the PBS Learning Media is tied to a lot of programs that's on the PBS Kids 24/7 channel. Those programs are constructed, and they are tied to learning standards, national and state standards. And there are thousands of interactive lessons that teachers and even parents can do at home with their children and find it in those libraries. And this program puts together lesson programs, ties together with Google Classroom, and just a lot of literacy lessons in there, lots of literacy, as well as STEM lessons throughout the PBS Learning Media. So these are just a few products and services that I wanted to share with everyone today, and we'll be glad to talk offline about any of them. Once again, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Tara. It's obvious MPB is still reaching all Mississippi kids, even with the challenges that COVID has thrown at us. So great job. Up next is Steve Greeley. Steve is president of Shared Cause, a social impact consulting firm and pioneer in the field of collective impact. Steve and his colleagues have supported the Mississippi Campaign for Grade Level Reading, the Mississippi Campaign for Grade Level Reading communities, as well as other partners in developing a more intentional and coordinated strategy for engaging families in Mississippi. Steve?
Thank you. Thanks, Olivia. One of the things that really distinguishes Mississippi is that, as you can tell, there are a lot of efforts that are aimed at building stronger systems of support for families with young kids. And our work has involved bringing a number of initiatives together to determine how they can have the greatest impact in collaboration with one another. And you can advance the slide. And so these are some of the initiatives that we're working with at this point. And I'm just going to give a quick overview of what they're all about. At the top is the Early Childhood Academy, which is an entity that works throughout Mississippi to help strengthen early care and education, working with providers, both who receive public support for their work and also open to all other providers in providing professional development. They also provide guidance to parents, and they have hubs in every county. So there's a great infrastructure there to work with. On the right, the Mississippi Department of Education in the past year completed a strategic plan to focusing explicitly on how to work in closer partnership with families. And so there is both a plan, there are tools, and they're working to create collaborative working relationships with parents to help with a real close connection with schools. There's the Barksdale Reading Institute, which has two major initiatives. It has a parent academy, which provides in-depth training for families who have kids who are about to enter into kindergarten and how to support them in that, making that successful. And also are initiating a Talk from the Start campaign, which is to help encourage families and guide families in nurturing their children's early language development. In the upper left, we have Mississippi Thrive, which is a collaboration between Mississippi State University and the University of Mississippi, and it's funded by HRSA. And it's focused on transforming pediatric practice, particularly to strengthen support, not only for early childhood development generally, but specifically for social and emotional development of kids. And then down in the lower left, Mississippi has a very strong initiative to promote the use and assist the use of Vroom, and now we're focusing also on integrating Mind in the Making. You may know both of these programs have been developed by the Bezos Foundation, and they're aimed at providing, first of all, a real clear understanding among parents and also professionals that work with young kids and their families, an understanding of how children's executive function develops and how to nurture the development of that through everyday activities. And so all of these initiatives had expressed interest in working together in a strategic way, and the Campaign for Grade Level Reading communities have welcomed that involvement. And so now we're in the process of developing our plan. And as we were starting that's when the pandemic hit. And so we're realizing that a lot of the things that originally we had thought would be done in person are going to have to be done virtually. But you could advance the slide. And I see there's two number ones, so they're equally important. The objectives here are to align families and the professionals that serve them and their kids with shared knowledge and resources. And that's a real big deal. We believe that if everybody's working from a common framework and they're using some similar tools, then that's going to help everybody work in greater partnership. And it's going to also help position families as key partners and lead partners in the educational process and surround them with high quality, similar encouragement and support. And, you know, when you think about it, we've had this sea change that's taken place and is continuing to take place around us. And it's critical to the success going forward in this pandemic that families have now been called upon to become more deeply involved in the teaching process than ever before. And so we have to give them the greatest support that we can. And we need to do that in ways that are consistent and they're high quality, they're proven, and they're able to be done at scale. And so what we're planning on doing is, first of all, to have a major effort to provide mind in the making training to professionals and to families. We know we're going to need to do this virtually. And we also, at the same time, will promote Vroom, which is this app and a variety of different mechanisms that give families and professionals daily tips, age appropriate, to help their kids develop their executive function. We're also going to be focusing on growing Reach Out and Read, in which pediatricians provide age-appropriate books when children are brought in for their well child visits, and all the pediatricians coach families on nurturing children's literacy. And then we'll promote the Talk from the Start campaign to get partners statewide in that, and also promote the adoption of the Parent Academy. And we're going to try to do this in a way that we're going to test this in a number of grade level reading communities to see how deep we can go. And we're also at the same time aligning these major initiatives so that we can have them work as closely as possible at the state level. And we're working towards having some common metrics for their impact that we'll be developing as we go forward. So that's basically the overview that we're pursuing at this point.
Thank you, Steve. The pandemic definitely has brought to light the importance of families becoming involved in their children's education, and the work y'all are doing is tied right into that, and we're glad to have you with us.
Thanks.
Now we're going to hear from our Mississippi Campaign for Grade Level Reading communities. Mississippi is proud to have 8 community coalitions recognized by the National Campaign for Grade Level Reading that have mobilized local stakeholders to implement community-based solutions for local grade level reading challenges. We have 5 of our community leads with us today who will share about the great work happening locally to mitigate learning loss. So we are going to start with Carrie Lynn Bessing in Hattiesburg, and then community leads, feel free to just jump in and introduce yourself when your slide comes up. Carrie Lynn?
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Carrie Lynn Bessing, and I work at United Way of Southeast Mississippi here in Hattiesburg. And so our GLR community is Hattiesburg Public School District, but a lot of our programs go into the other counties that we serve as well. And so if you hear me talk about another community, that's why. But so COVID hit in March, and we had to hit the ground running a little bit to pivot a little. And so some things that we were able to do was very quickly initially, we were able to buy 25 Chromebooks for the Hattiesburg Public School District. And so a lot of students didn't have access to technology as they were sent home. And so we were able to work with the foundation, the Hattiesburg Public School Foundation, who then procured additional Chromebooks as well for children. And we focused mainly on grades 6 through 12, since more of the technology side of assignments were in those grades. So we were able to do that. And then also we were able to utilize school lunch lines as a touch point for students. And so we provided donated books to also be given to students whenever they came to get their lunch from the school. And we were able to do that in Lamar County School District. and that went off really well. And if we get back to the fall and we're still virtual, we plan on doing more of that as well. And then also tied to literacy, we've been promoting the Dolly Parton's Imagination Library as a way to continue bringing those books into the home. And we were able to sign up a good amount of kids over the last few months as word has been getting out, especially with Goodnight Dolly being promoted across the nation. That program really helped get the word out about it being local. And so we were able to do that. And similarly, we put out 100 free educational resources online. We made an interactive PDF that we were going to do just for the summertime as kind of like a learning calendar, but we were able to push that out much earlier the moment we started looking at trying to find resources for children to have at home, especially free resources. And then the last quick thing that I'll just touch base on what we've been up to in Hattiesburg is our COVID relief program. One of our partner agencies said it very well of if they're not eating, then they're not learning. And I think that also ties to if you don't have a roof over your head, or if you don't have power and things like that, then your learning is going to be impacted severely, especially during this time. And so we've been focusing a lot of our efforts on just keeping children in their homes and keeping them cool and having access to internet. And so we were able, this graphic on here is actually a little outdated. It's just the latest one that we had on file, but to date, we've given $37,405.34 to 120 households in our 4-county area, a lot of those being in Forest County and in the Hattiesburg Public School District. And the majority of the households also having children. And so we are continuing to take those applications right now. And we also have a survey live right now statewide. GLR kindly shared that out for us, thank you. And so we hope to be able to provide some more relief or whatever that looks like based off how that survey comes back in the future. But I think I'm passing it on to Nikki now.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Nikki McCullough. I'm United Way of the Capital Area located in Jackson, Mississippi. As a response to COVID-19, we definitely have been doing our work to support families and children during this time. We hosted a virtual town hall meeting on July 9th entitled The Impact of COVID-19 on Families and Summer Learning. It was hosted by our friend Steve Greeley, who is in this meeting with us today. But during this time, we had an opportunity to hear from parents, school educators, and administrators, as well as summer learning providers regarding the concerns they had regarding access to traditional summer learning opportunities. However, we were also able to provide parents with alternative summer learning opportunities that were being provided through different organizations via virtual platforms. In addition, we too launched the COVID-19 Relief Fund to provide financial support to school districts and nonprofit organizations for meal distributions as well as distance learning supports. We know that in Jackson and in our metro area, there's a lot of students who don't have access to mobile technologies or mobile devices, and they also don't have access to Wi-Fi. So during this time, we were able to create a grant fund to support those areas. To date, we have provided over $87,000 to school districts and nonprofit organizations to support both distance learning / summer learning and food distribution. At these food distribution sites, parents also have the opportunity to receive summer learning packets that they could use with their students, different summer learning activities that they could conduct with their children at home. And lastly, through our partnership with United Way Worldwide, our Jackson Campaign for Grade Level Reading launched the 90-day subscription of Noggin or Nickelodeon Kids to access fun educational material. We did take it one step further because we wanted to be able to gauge the number of low to moderately income households that were accessing this subscription. So we put our subscription, launched it through an Eventbrite platform, so that once parents signed up, we could look at area codes to determine, how many children from low-income populations were actually accessing that subscription for Nickelodeon. And we wanted to do that so that we would be able to follow up with those households and provide additional support services for summer learning. And I'll pass it on.
I'm just talking away. I am Tamara Hilmer. I'm at LOU Reads. That's at Oxford University Reads. We're in Oxford. And so in the past, during National Summer Learning Week, we've taken our literacy bus and done fun activities and included local folks at the university and in our community that could help. Well, it was a little different this year. So we took, as you see, 6 days, 6 books, 6 set of activities, and we posted all that online on our website and on social media, and we chose books that were good for this time. We really went through, we used First Book because that's a company that we've used a lot with our campaign, and found books that were good about mindset, about having a positive outlook. One of my favorite books that's come out of this is Saturday. And it talks about a mom and a daughter that nothing goes right, everything's going wrong, and how do you make it through that and make something good out of it. So we had money through our United Way, local United Way, and we made 120 packets that had anything they needed to do these activities at home. Those went in less than a day, like wiped us out. We put them at the housing authorities and the laundromats. Took them to summer meals program sites and hung out with them as they passed out the meals all throughout. So we worked with the city and the county. So we went way out in the boondocks and handed out supplies. And then we made them, like I said, available online. So if you couldn't get a package, you could still take part and do some of the activities. So that's one way we tried to keep the learning going this summer. Also, our little free libraries, I've been calling them portals to our community. Because of the risk of people wanting to get not be near each other, we would do like little grab bags of books and do them by grade level and put them in the little free library so they could just get a grab bag instead of everybody touching on something. Any kind of information, we've used our little free libraries for that to get that information out. With MyOn, we've been doing the MyOn reading program through Renaissance. And we have lots of summer programs that have gone online. So we had it was between 35 and 40 teachers that signed up to do projects through MyOn through their summer learning. And I even had teachers that said, hey, I want to still keep in contact with my 30 students that I had this past school year and keep them going this summer with projects. So with MyOn, we've had right now our first grade are our superstars. They have been reading the most out of pre-K through 3rd grade with, and it's about, almost 6,000 minutes they've read this summer, 728 books that they've read. So we're trying to keep that going. We had a new summer program that just started last week, so they are going to be utilizing that as well. One thing that we wanted to push on, because our numbers are going up just like anybody else in our area, trying to do things that they can do at home. So we came across this, and I'll put it in the chat box. It's called Stay at Home Kindness Bingo. And so it's some things that families can do together, and it's through Sean Aker that does the Happiness Advantage book. And so we put that out as a resource for families to do things at home. As Steve mentioned, the Parent Academy, the end of the year, we had to change and do some videos and do videos for parents and post them online. So we're trying to see what do we need to do. So we're polling our pre-K parents across the community of what do they prefer, kind of like we're doing with the students in school. What do you prefer, an online option, or would you feel comfortable coming face-to-face and distance? So just assisting our local school districts however they need. We've been making sure they have, with the collaborative that we have here locally, that they have devices at each of our pre-K sites that they can have that in case we need to be home. So just staying super busy trying to support all our people. All right, Shelly, it's yours.
Hey, I'm Shelly Brooks. I am the director of the Early Childhood Coalition here in Tupelo, Lee County. And the Early Childhood Coalition is a special project that is through the United Way of Northeast Mississippi and the Create Foundation. And Tupelo, Lee County, our coalition serves 2 school districts that are around 7,500 students apiece and 55 child care centers. And because we have such a strong relationship already in place with those 55 child care centers and the school districts, we were able to connect quickly and hit the ground running when the pandemic started. One of the first things that we did was survey our child care centers. So like I said, we do a lot of work already with them and are just in constant contact with them almost daily. So we tried to assist them in whatever way they needed, which was a lot of the individual needs. We helped them with their school business administration loans. We shared resources, many of the great resources that the other colleagues have shared, the resources that the school districts were supplying, the resources that MDE was supplying. As you all know, many companies offered free subscriptions. We shared those with the child care centers and therefore with the parents. We assisted a lot of the centers that closed, which a majority of ours did stay open, but the ones that did close, we assisted them with packets for their parents to take home for the children who would be staying at home with their parents or their families. We also received a first book grant of about $1,500 and several other small grants. So we ended up with about $30,000 worth of books to pass out in our communities. Like Tamara said, we have little free libraries. We have around 15, and we did everything we could to keep those stocked. We have around 1,200 children enrolled in the Imagination Library, and I think we enrolled around 150 more since March. We tried to assist and, just anything that we could to become a listening ear to alleviate some of that stress that those child care center directors and teachers were experiencing, as you all know and can imagine. We tried to provide resources for the teachers that were still there during this pandemic to assist with the academic and the social emotional needs. The Vroom app is something that we were already promoting, and so we have a lot of resources, a lot of books dealing with that. There was so much offered through virtual PD. We did virtual story times, virtual art lessons. We assisted with getting them hand sanitizers, just gloves. Like I said, just whatever those centers needed, we did our best to try to get that covered. And of course, we assisted our school districts by communicating with those parents about the digital learning, the available resources, kindergarten registration. We distributed, some of the parents could not get to the schools to pick up the learning packets. So we took a lot of the learning packets to the centers so those parents could pick them up there. And a lot of our parents, as I'm sure a lot of your communities until did not have access to virtual learning, so they depended on those learning packets. We provided books in conjunction with United Way, and our Create Foundation also has something called the Hunger Coalition, Tupelo Lee County Hunger Coalition. So we partnered with them, and when they were passing out meals at these sites, we actually went there and passed out some of our books. And at those sites, we were able to connect with some of our parents who didn't have children in the child care centers to tell them about the resources and the kindergarten registration and so forth. So we did meet a lot of parents there that do not have their children in any kind of formal child care. We've also tried to do, since we can't get into do a lot of the summer learning programs, we've tried to do pop-up story times throughout the community. We've just taken a tent, and some of our local teachers from the school districts we've gone to some apartment complexes places in the community where we have a story time. The children get to receive a free book to take home, and they do some kind of art activity or some fun activity to go along with the book, just to promote reading and keep them engaged throughout the summer. And like I said, the books are distributed there. So really ours has been just all across the board, doing what each child care center, the school district individually needs us to do. We're just doing all we can to be active and visible in the community as possible to the parents and caregivers so that the children can have an easy transition back to school in August. I think it's Michelle.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michelle Connolly. I'm the Executive Director of the United Way of West Central Mississippi and serve on the Campaign for Grade Level Reading Coalition here in Vicksburg, Mississippi, and it's quite an honor to be with each of you today. I would have to just ditto a lot of the work that's being done in our other communities or also being done here in Vicksburg, Mississippi. But the one thing that I wanted to make sure that I said was each one of us obviously sat down and looked at our pre-COVID activities, events, and we really had to think hard about how to navigate post-COVID. We really had to think hard about what were we going to do to provide those same services with the same goals and the same mission, and make sure that our target audiences were receiving the information. Because it's so very easy to say that you're going to put something online, or you're going to put something on Facebook, or you're going to put something in a box. But if your target audience does not know to go there and does not know to get that information, it's almost null and void, to be honest. So with that being said, there was a lot of work put into what we across our great state have done, but I'm just going to give you three very small examples of Warren County. Pre-COVID, we were going into the Housing Authority and having Toddler Tuesdays every Tuesday, where we were providing parent tips and resources. So now we do toddler tips, and they're placed on our social media. And to the left, there's an example of toddler tips, which of course, thank you very much, has to do with the free noggin access that we all have across our great state. But in order to make sure that it was getting in the right hands, we were also making sure that the director of the Housing Authority had this information so that she could tape it on doors, not just assume that they're getting it online, so that they do have access and know that it's there. Day of Action is something that we do every single year, and every year it brings about between 600 and 700 children through a gymnasium to talk about literacy, healthy eating, and healthy exercise. We obviously could not do that this year, so we hand delivered packages to all 23 daycares that were open in our community, and in those packages were the free books and different things from all the different businesses, so they felt like they were still a part of Day of Action. There were 616 packages that were passed out to children in 23 daycares, and then we also created an online presence on that particular day. And Coach Calhoun, which we all know, was our featured person for Day of Action. And we had 189 people that logged in and watched it from beginning to end. But that means 189 people, but 23 of those were daycares where they had all of the children that were participating in Day of Action. And for the daycares that were not open at that time, we gave them their packages, and on their first day of school in August, they're gonna move to Learn with Coach Calhoun and celebrate Day of Action on their day. And the other thing that we've all been doing is listening, and Shelley said it very well. We're tailoring exactly what we're doing in all of our communities based upon the needs that everyone has, and they run the gamut. And I'd like to thank Carrie Lynn while we're on here, because she has been the one that has really been working on this statewide survey that she made reference to. We've got to listen to what the needs are, and we have to be creative in figuring that out. And one way is to ask and not assume, and one way is to ask and then sit back and then figure out how we're going to put it together once we decide what it is that the community actually needs. And it can be as simple as Clorox wipes, and as an extensive as the thermometers that that you now have to have when everybody walks in. So we partnered with our Warren County Emergency Management and took the list that all of the daycares gave us, and then we fulfilled as much as we could to those 23 daycares so that they could be open and active, and they could use their money on what they're supposed to use their money on, which is learning, not personal protective equipment. So we were blessed to give all of them very nice packages, and we'll continue to do so because exactly like Nikki said, we can't do this unless people feel safe. And in order for people to feel safe, we are the ones that have to step up and coordinate and collaborate with others to make sure that everyone has this. So thank y'all very much for allowing me to be a part of today.
So I know that we are running over our time, but it is such an inspiration to hear all of the great work that people across the state, our partners within our communities, our state level partners, all the hard work that folks are doing to ensure that families and children have the support they need during this rather interesting and difficult time. So I will not keep you. I had great inspirational remarks, as you all well know, that will not share. But thank you to our presenters. Thank you to our participants. And if you know of any community interested in becoming a part of the campaign for grade level reading, please do email Olivia or at ospaster@olemiss.edu. Go to our website, look on Twitter and find us. We'll be happy to make a connection. So thank you again. Have a great week. And please don't forget to tune in tomorrow to hear our fearless leader, Dr. Carrie Wright, share what we're doing in Mississippi and how we plan to maintain that momentum. Have a great afternoon, and thanks, everyone.